Good evening and welcome to Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas G. Now, India has begun its counter-offensive against Pakistan after the terrorists they harbor killed 28 tourists in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam. Amongst the big moves taken to hurt Pakistan diplomatically is the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. The agreement was signed in 1960, under which India has been sharing water from rivers Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. But with this move, Pakistan's already drowning economy will take another major hit. Taps will dry up, groundwater will deplete and crops won't grow. People will turn against their government. Not exactly a pleasant sight for Shehbaz Sharif's government. Other diplomatic strikes include the shutting of the Atari border, suspension of the SAARC visa exemption scheme, expulsion of top Pakistan envoys and withdrawal of Indian envoys from the neighboring nation. The strength in Pakistan High Commission has also been reduced from 55 to 30. Spooked by India's swift and decisive action, Shehbaz Sharif government has retaliated in a big way to try and save its face in front of the world. Pakistan has suspended all trade with India while also shutting airspace for all Indian-operated flights. All right, so this is as far as some of the moves that have been taken, and India, of course, continues to keep its options open in terms of a response. Militarily speaking, at the moment, the response has been diplomatic. Let's quickly take this across to Mr. Vardhan Shringla, former Foreign Secretary of India, who's joining us live. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to Times Now. And let me begin by asking you, in terms of the measures that India has taken, and if you look at the response coming from Pakistan, word to word, it appears to be nothing but copying what India has done, because on the one hand, you have India who says that we've kept in abeyance the Indus Water Treaty. They're using similar language as far as the Shringla Agreement is concerned. Pakistan, it appears, is quite flummoxed with India's response.
No, clearly, I think in response to what has been the worst terrorist attack since 2019, we have been very quick in taking diplomatic measures. And these are quite, I think, telling in nature, both from the point of view of hurting Pakistan and sending a strong message to them. And at the same time, I think protecting our security interests in expelling the military attaches and also getting rid of the SAARC visa exemptions and some other loopholes in our visa scheme that allowed Pakistani nationals to operate in our country. At the same time, I think, we have clearly, from Pakistan's point of view, their response has not been very imaginative. As you say, it's almost a copy of what we have done. And I don't think you can expect much more from them, considering that they're the perpetrators of terrorism. And, those who perpetrate terrorism can't turn out to be those who are aggrieved. So from that perspective, I think, they will take certain steps from their point of view, but I don't think they mean anything. I mean, the steps that had to be taken diplomatically have already been taken by us.
Right. Also, in terms of the actual operationalization as far as the Indus Water Treaty is concerned, it's not like India can suddenly divert this huge volume of water. How do you see this playing out? Because this is also something that can have a medium to long-term impact in terms of how actually India will take, or at least reserve its right to divert those waters if it wishes to anytime in the future, Mr. Shringla.
Well, as the upper riparian, we have the right to, use water within, certain limits. I mean, we have the lower riparian in the case of China, but, there's talk of damming the water, diverting the water there. So from that perspective, I think, what we are saying is that we will hold this particular treaty in abeyance, which means that this treaty will no longer be operational until such time that Pakistan abjures its policy of resorting to terrorism. Right. And in any case, this treaty was quite compromised because Pakistan constantly, I would say, interfered in its smooth functioning, using all sorts of, legal and other options open to it, and did not fully implement the treaty in letter or spirit as we were doing. So from our perspective, it allows us to go ahead with certain developmental works that we are undertaking. It allows us to use the water as we see fit. But you're right in saying that obviously we're not going to stop the water from flowing. Water will flow, and I think it's not going to be punitive from the point of view of people, but it will be certainly utilized for our own developmental purposes and our consumptive uses as appropriate.
Right, and Pakistan's response has been that any suspension of the Indus Water Treaty will be treated as an act of war. How do you see this kind of response coming in from Pakistan's side?
Empty words, just rhetoric. I mean, if anyone has to look at it from the point of view of war or conflict, it has to be us. We are the aggrieved party. You are perpetrating terrorism against us. You are killing innocent citizens in very large numbers in our country, and we are the ones who should be taking the measures that are lethal in order to address the issue of terrorism and those who sponsor terrorism and the infrastructure around them. So I don't think we should take what they say very seriously. We have to do what we have to do. And what is more important is that I think we have to teach Pakistan a salutary lesson in response to what they have done. It is very clear that if you perpetrate terrorism against us, we will respond, in a very harsh manner. And if you try to burn us, we will burn you, and not proportionately, it will be disproportionate. So there has to be a lesson in this, that terrorism as an instrument of policy does not pay as far as Pakistan is concerned.
Absolutely, and Prime Minister's statement today from Bihar was quite, representative of that in terms of actually India tracking down these terrorists to the end of the earth, and what really will happen in terms of India's response. There is, of course, all of this is coming in the midst of course, views that despite the fact that there have been surgical strikes in the past, Pak refuses to mend its ways, and therefore something far more drastic has to happen this time around. Given the kind of support that has been pouring in from the international community, whether it's US, whether it's Russia, whether it's various EU countries, do you think the time is right for India to take a much more decisive action than it has in the past?
Look at it this way. In 2019, when the Pulwama attacks took place, I was in the US at that time. President Trump said India has the right to self-defense. And this time, taking that further, he says, I stand with Prime Minister Modi and the people of India. So the US is saying you have a carte blanche, you've been attacked, you have the right to respond. And I think countries across the world are saying that, and you're right. We have to carry the international community with us, but our response has to be very, very firm and in many senses dissuasive. That means in the future, Pakistan should not ever think of using terrorism as a policy, as an instrument of its policy. And Indian and our citizens should never be harmed by this absolute scourge ever again.
All right, Mr. Shringla, thank you so much for joining us and in fact sharing with us your perspective.